So first of all, hi, I'm Max. Nice to meet you. This is what I would look like if I had hair. I'm the team manager of customer marketing at Aircall. We're a French tech company, and I work in their New York office. Shout out to my coworker Lydia, who's in the audience here. A little bit about me. I've spent the last 7 years in B2B marketing. 5 of those have been in SaaS, demand gen, and performance marketing roles for high growth companies, usually startups. The last 2 years of that, I've been leading the global customer marketing strategy. We started from scratch. It's just me, and I have 1 employee, so really bootstrapped org. When I'm not doing this, you can find me skateboarding. I think there's at least 1 skateboarder in the audience. Rock climbing is a new hobby I'm into, and you can find me at Tompkins Square Park if you have a dog. I'm there almost every morning. Great, so here's what I'm going to talk about. It's funny, all these emojis showed up weird. It's not the emoji I put in, but that's fine. Awesome, so first I'm going to talk about the direct line between reviews and revenue. Then I'm going to talk about the data inputs and the different team alignment that you're going to need to create before you start getting into your program. I'm going to spend the majority of my time focused on the setup. I'm not afraid to show you exactly what we do at Aircall around this, and hopefully that'll be helpful for you. Spend a little bit of time talking about replying to reviews, because I think this is one of the pieces that are missed in a lot of review programs, but probably one of the most important. And then lastly, how do you follow up and iterate on your program over time? So we will talk about that a little bit. I'll try to save some time for questions at the end, but if not, catch me later. Awesome, so first of all, why should you ask for reviews? There's one really glaring reason why you should ask for reviews, and it's because if you don't, you might end up with a lot of reviews that look like this. After the conclusion of our Aircall contract, our invoice complaint was ignored. Repeated inquiries about our subscription are simply not responded to. Booked appointments were not kept. Do I have the feeling that I am a valued customer? No, 1 star. That's brutal. When I read that, first of all, it was in German, so I had to translate it first. But when I read that, I was like, oh man, this isn't good. Okay, so we will circle back on this specific review later. I'll let you know how we responded and what the outcome was. But you don't want just a ton of negative reviews on your platforms, and it's just human nature. When you are paying for a service and you get the service that you wanted, you don't need to write a review. The exchange, the contract has already been established. But when you're running into issues, this is one of the best ways to get it resolved. Leave a negative review. A lot of people will say if you ask for reviews, you're creating kind of a skewed voice of your customer online. I actually advocate for the opposite. If you are not asking people for reviews, then you're going to have an unfair and unbalanced view of what your company does. If all our reviews looked like this, we would not close any deals, but we close a lot of deals. We have 15,000 customers, so we're doing something right. Next, this is the first place your customers look, and if you don't believe me, Google yourself. You might see your review listing show up on the right-hand side or directly below if it's on mobile. Customers are immediately seeing your review rankings. You don't want them to see a ton of reviews that look like this. I just wanted to use the pointer. And lastly, there's a direct line from reviews to revenue. You don't have to read these, but listen to your sales calls. Check out some of the demo notes that are being left. How are customers finding you? A lot of times you'll see they're finding you from reviews. And I'll note that some of our most recent closed deals, including these 2, were about 3 or 4 times larger than our average deal size. So very, very important, ask for reviews. So we've established that. We're going to ask for reviews, but where should we focus our time? One helpful trick I like to do is just search for your company with qualifier reviews at the end. In this case, Aircall reviews. You see a bunch of platforms show up. All the way at the top is G2, and then you have GetApp, which is a Gartner product, TrustRadius, Trustpilot. So right away, you see 4 platforms where you can make a difference. And this really ties into your lead sources. Take a look at, again, those sales demos. Take a look at what your sales team is saying, where they found you. In some cases, you'll see that they find you, where am I? At the number one result. So again, a good way to know where to spend your time. And this is certainly not the last thing you should consider. Maybe actually one of the first things you should consider is talk to your team. Not just your sales team, not just your CS team. Talk to your tangential teams, like your partnerships team, for instance. At Aircall, a big part of our demand gen strategy is around our integration partners. So while they don't show up when we Google, customers at HubSpot, for instance, are going to be looking on their marketplace, the HubSpot marketplace, to see what cloud phone providers are highly rated there. And when they go there, they're going to see the highest rated with the most reviews and the most installs is Aircall. What resources are you going to need? Obviously, you can't do this in a silo, and in some cases, you're going to need some more information. One really helpful piece of information is access to your satisfaction indicators. I'm talking about NPS scores. I'm talking about any surveys that your teams are doing. Feed that data into your backend platform. For us, it's Marketo. Having access to that data is going to give you a place that you can focus your energy and your time. I'll talk about exactly how we implement this at Aircall and what you should consider in a second. You're also going to need sufficient budget. Now, you don't necessarily need to give a gift card or a gift for a review, but you do need, the customer needs to feel like they're getting something out of the interaction. When they leave a negative review, normally it gets your attention and then you solve their issue. What happens when they leave a positive review? Something good should happen that is a reciprocal event. And for us, the most scalable, easiest way is to offer an Amazon gift card, and I will get to the reason why in a second. And then lastly, but you should probably consider this right now, is what tools do you have and who should own those tools in different parts of your process. You're going to need access to marketing automation tools. You're probably going to need to tap into your operations teams and your teams that are actually in the nitty-gritty of building out the automation. Awesome, the setup. I promised you guys I would get right to it here. Great. So first, you're going to want to prioritize the platforms that you are going to reach out to for reviews. I showed you some ways that you can discover those platforms, but then you're going to want to build something kind of like this. I'm a spreadsheet guy, so apologies if I'm triggering anyone right now. Hopefully there's a couple spreadsheet people out there. This is what our prioritization doc looks like. Basically, this is the order in which we would ask a customer for reviews and what qualifies them for each review platform, meaning what part of our customer base are they in. A couple things to consider here. Prioritize your most local, your newest, and your lowest ranked channels. And this is not because they're the most important channels, but this is because if you can easily just segment 20 customers and ask them to leave a review on, let's say, your local Google listing in one of your satellite offices, you're going to make sure that that is a platform. Like some of our best review platforms are our Berlin office, our Madrid office. These have like really great rankings because we send people there first if they qualify. And then there's plenty of customers left over to leave reviews on the more important platforms like G2, Gartner, so on and so forth. You're also going to want to consider who your customers are and what they're doing. For instance, we make a software, we have mobile apps, and so we send people that are engaging with our mobile apps to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, depending on what part of our product they're using. So very important to consider that. And then lastly, but again, not least, coordinate with your internal stakeholders. In this case, our partnerships team, I worked with them to define what are the marketplaces that we want to be raising reviews for, and in what priority should we be doing that. The next step is planning your outreach. So what does the ask look like? I'm just going to show you an email example right now, but there's so many other ways that you can get creative to ask your customers. So here's two templates that we have, and I don't expect you to read them, but the one on the left is more of a plain text template that you could potentially use with, let's say, this could come straight from your CSM or your account owner of that customer, if you have that capability. It's a bit more personalized. I would recommend this for when it's harder to get them to leave a review because maybe there's more questions on a platform like a TrustRadius or a Gartner Peer Insights, for example. The one on the right is more of our marketing template that we use for some of those more kind of plug-and-play platforms like Trustpilot, where you can leave a review in about 10 seconds. These are two templates we use, some things to consider here. Build your templates in a scalable way. You saw that spreadsheet that it's kind of stressful. If I had to rebuild my program for every single platform that we're reaching out to, I would spend 40 hours a week on our review program. However, I only spend about an hour or 2 hours a week on this because we're using scalable methods. Like, for instance, we have program tokens in our emails where we can easily swap out the name of the platform as well as the link that's behind that button. The next thing to consider, and this is probably the most important thing, if you hear nothing else I say, listen to this. Make your ask about feedback and about gratitude. I'll give you a quick example. I'm reaching out because Aircall values your feedback and wants to hear what you have to say. You don't want to say, for a multiplicity of reasons, you don't want to say, hey, we noticed that you left a high NPS score. Now will you please leave us a 5-star review on this platform? Then we will give you money. That is not what you want to say. First of all, it's a negative customer experience if you're going to approach it that way. We're making this about them, not about us. The other reason is because it's actually illegal to do that. You cannot ask a customer to leave you explicitly a positive review. You can only ask them for their feedback, so very, very important. Chances are no one's going to come after you unless you're at Google or one of the bigger companies. So Julie, watch out. Also make it about gratitude. You want to really thank them. Thank them for leaving a review. That's why you're giving them a gift card. You're not giving them a gift card because you want a 5-star review and you want to make sure you get one. You're giving them a gift card of a not extremely high value to say thank you. Very important. Feedback and gratitude. And then lastly, be super clear with what you're asking. This is marketing 101. We always want to have a really clear CTA. You always want to be clear, what do we want you to do and what is in it for you? I'd highly recommend using vendor automation whenever you can. If you're working with G2 or Capterra, TrustRadius will do this as well. They'll actually do the outreach on your behalf, and they have higher conversion rates because they do this way more than we could ever do it. And also, when you can get the vendor to make the ask for you, if you're running into an issue where your sales or your CS team is saying, we're asking way too much of customers, stop it. I know that probably happens to some of you. If the vendor's asking, you're not asking. So keep that in mind. It can be perceived that way by the customer. Step 3, building your program. This might be getting into the weeds a little bit, so don't worry, you'll get the slides later. But first of all, who should receive your outreach? Well, this is, again, sorry if I'm stressing anyone out, but this is our actual Marketo Smart List. I cut out a couple things for confidentiality, but this is our actual Smart List of who qualifies for our program. One thing to consider here, reach out to your most engaged audience first, okay? This is something I think sometimes people are afraid to do because they think they're kind of straddling the line of FTC guidelines, and you are, but there's a way that you can, and you are, just like all good marketers should. However, just like anything in marketing, you want to reach out to your most engaged audience first. These are the reasons why you're going to have high open, high click, high conversion rates on these emails. However, don't just reach out to them. In this case, these are high NPS responders and people who left positive feedback on a recent survey. Create a path for anyone to leave a review. One company that does a really great job at this is Adobe. They're calling out TrustRadius directly on their login page. This is an absolute fantastic thing to do, and especially because TrustRadius will manage the actual outreach, but also the execution of sending the gift card afterwards. This is a great way to do it. Something that's way easier to implement, though, I want to give you an easy example. On the right-hand side, you see that's just the footer in our everyday newsletter that we send, not every day, our monthly newsletter that we send to customers. And it's asking them to leave a review on Google. So very easy ways to kind of get more people into your audience. Some people are also afraid of this method. That's the biggest thing with reviews. I think it's like a little bit of fear, right? Because you're basically asking someone to write something and you're not able to vet it before they post it online to everybody. But listen, your negative, your reviewers that want to leave you a negative review, they're going to do it whether you send them a gift card or not. They're not going to be incentivized by this to leave a review. It's only the people, and test this out, I promise you, probably 95, almost 100% of the people that come in through this method are going to leave you a 5-star review. You just need to ask them. All right, now we'll get into a little bit more about the what. This is how we implement the priority. This is probably the most in the weeds slide I have. But the way we've built our smart list, our flow step within Marketo. Any Marketo users out there, by the way? Okay, cool. So I'm talking to people that know what I mean. Great. You may need to speak to like your marketing ops team or someone who's managing the actual build here, but take that priority doc, give that to the person that's going to actually build this and have them implement it in your back end. That's the importance of that monster looking spreadsheet. All right, when should you send this and how often? For us, because we want to be able to know exactly when someone's getting this type of email, we send this out every Monday. You can send it out immediately after they, let's say, trigger one of your satisfaction indicators. That's fine to do as well. But the most scalable way for us has been to do it on a weekly cadence. You can see every week we have a pretty healthy list of customers, like 100 to 150 people that we ask to leave us a review. Last step in this setup, and then we'll get into the more fun slides, is monitoring and responding. So if you're not doing vendor automation, which for us, probably 80% of our program is bootstrapped, we're just doing every part of it, you're going to need to monitor people and then incentivize them. So for instance, what we say in our emails is, if you leave us a review of any nature, again, don't ask for a positive review. If you leave us a review, then just shoot us a reply so we know. This does two things, actually, which is really great, and I'll get into the second later. But first of all, what you can do is as soon as they respond, just add their email to a spreadsheet with any other information you want to be tracking, such as where they left it, what currency the gift card should be in. And then, for instance, the reason why we use Amazon gift cards is because they have a ton of local sites. We're an international company, so we need to be able to send a gift card to someone in Qatar, for instance. They have a ton of local sites, and you can issue the incentives in bulk. But if you have access to a gifting platform, definitely leverage that. Great. Okay, we made it through the setup. Now what? Well, the first thing you should do is you should reply to every single review, because when a customer leaves a review, they want to be heard. Okay, not just the negative, but the positive as well. I'm going to give an example about negative reviews. Remember earlier when I read that horrific review to you guys? This review came in, and immediately, instead of, has anyone ever left a review about a restaurant and then gotten a really nasty response from the restaurant owner, or seen something like that? Do not do that, okay? What you want to do in this case, I believe we said something like, thank you so much for your feedback. We are so sorry that you had this experience. We are going to make this right. I'm going to reach out to your account owner and we'll get in touch with you. Okay? So what happened is I reached out to the account owner, and long story short, it was just a communication issue. The customer, was trying to communicate through a channel that their account owner didn't have access to, for instance. So they cleared it up, and I said, okay, will you please just ask that customer, if you have a positive interaction with them, if they're willing to, what's the verbiage here? if they're willing to revisit their feedback, okay? Not delete your review or, whatever. You're not directing them. Will you revisit your feedback? In this case, this person went above and beyond. They changed their 1-star review to a 5-star review. After my complaint, Aircall had a clarifying conversation with me, understanding, listening, and striving to improve. It makes me laugh because apart from these communication difficulties, Aircall is a technically flawless product with many features, and I am definitely very satisfied with the service. 5 stars again. Okay, this is a ridiculous example. It seems like I made it up. This doesn't happen every day. But when you ask a customer to revisit their feedback after you resolve their complaint, 9 times out of 10, they just delete their review. And if you can get a 1-star review removed, that's even better in my book than getting a 5-star review left any day of the week. Last thing, respond to your good reviews, okay? Sorry to be that guy that puts his own quote on the screen, so don't read it, but I wanted to mention that HubSpot, I participated in a HubSpot blog article about responding to reviews, both good and bad, so there's a lot of great examples in there, not just for me, but a ton of customer marketers and probably some in the room maybe today. But anyways, the reason I put this here is because when you respond to a good review, you can take that 5-star review, turn it into a 6 or a 7-star review by adding a little bit more. For instance, if a customer says, I really love this feature of your product, you can say, thank you so much for your feedback. A ton of our customers are talking about that feature. Did you know that if you pair that feature with this feature or this integration, you could take it to the next level? And that is how you can really take a good review and turn it into a great one. All right, last section, and then we'll have a little bit of time. I didn't think we'd have time for questions, but I think we will have a little bit of time. Don't stop at the review, okay? The interaction is technically done, but your work is not yet done. First of all, share your successes with your team, especially on customer marketing. At Aircall, there's, I think, 800 employees, maybe 60 marketers, and 2 customer marketers. We're a small team. We need resources. We need a head count. We need to grow just like everyone else. So share your successes with the team. For instance, one thing that we do, because after a customer finishes their onboarding period, they get a survey to ask how we did. And then immediately after leaving us a high score, we ask them for a review, if they're willing to leave a review. A lot of times, they will actually call out the person that helped them that's on the onboarding of the success team because they're making the correlation, oh, this is why they asked me. And so if one of your colleagues gets shouted out, make sure that you shout them out internally in your Slack or your Teams or whatever your internal communication tool is. Also, if you're able to make a big difference on a platform, and you will see this in the very early days of your review program. For instance, by doing one push on Trustpilot, we drove 80 reviews, and we took our rating from a 2.8 to a 4.5. Insane. Share this stuff with your team. It's going to help them recognize the value of your review program and make them want to partner with you on other things. Another really important thing to do is take control of the conversation. That's the whole point behind replying to reviews. But if you are able to successfully generate a bunch of high-quality 5-star reviews, share those on your website. In our case, we created a page called Aircall Reviews. Anyone with an SEO background would know this is going to rank in like the #1 result. So when a customer, next time they're Googling Aircall Reviews, or whatever your company's name is, you don't all work with me, but if you want to, I'll refer you. So next time they Google Aircall Reviews, they're going to potentially see in the first result basically a page that we designed to showcase what we want them to see. And this has been a great strategy for us on lead gen, but also just kind of customer advocacy in general. Speaking of customer advocacy, the reason why I love reviews is because it's a great kind of segue into so many other things. It's probably the lightest customer advocacy push that you can do at a company, so it creates a lot of volume, and then you can take these reviews, and then you can start reaching out to these customers for other things like customer case studies, maybe speaking engagements, references, all those types of great customer advocacy techniques. The reason why I'm able to track by the way, who these customers are, is because I'm asking them to respond to that initial email, and then I'm issuing them a gift card, so I already have their email. Plug that into Salesforce or whatever your CRM is, create a report, and give it to your team, let them go wild. For us, we don't actually do case studies, our field marketing team does. Again, shout out to Lydia. So this is a helpful strategy to help create those opportunities. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, quick shout out, amount of stars. What's our review? What's our review for Max? I think, yeah, absolutely. 11 out of 10. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have time for one question, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. But definitely, folks can find you after, right, to ask you some more questions. Yeah. Okay, so this one was top voted. How are you capturing if somebody viewed a review during the sales process?
So, of course, this is something we're not actually doing, but there are a lot of great ways to do this, okay? So if you're doing this in a really bootstrapped kind of environment like we are, there's definitely ways that you can take, for instance, when we are syncing over our reviews from Marketo into Salesforce, we sync them as a Salesforce campaign. And you can make that object available at the opportunity record so people can see, oh look, this somebody in this kind of org has left a review. I'm actually not seeing that a lot of people are leaving reviews during the sales process, but that's probably because I'm a customer marketer, so we're focusing on post-sale. Another way you can do this, and this is more so about how you can kind of leverage reviews during the sales process. I believe TrustRadius does this. Allison, please correct me later if I'm wrong. I believe TrustRadius does this, and maybe G2, where you can actually take your reviews and make them available in Salesforce. So these are great ways to do that as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Max.
Yeah, and I'll be around during the coffee break and all day, so just chat with me.
Great. Round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you so much.